the Dr. Livingston and Coach Scholarship Trainer Charlie with No Excuse Nation, teaching you the top 5 tips for at home and at work, because everyone's sitting doing everything now. This top tip suggestion before we jump into these awesome exercises. Number 1 is get a sit to stand desk. It's not that you're sitting too long or the fact that you're actually standing too long. Some people are standing too long too. You want to transition a lot often throughout the day. When you feel the need to get up and just move. Do a few things. If you want to do one of these top 5 exercises and that's all you have the time to do, then just do that. I would suggest doing all 5 of them. Even just one quick set, boom. Do that 4 or 5 times throughout the day, you got 5 sets. That's just gonna help you move and stay flexible all day. So we're gonna start with
kettlebell swings.
Okay,
so the biggest mistake that I see with people doing kettlebell swings is treating it like a squat. The kettlebell swing is not a squat. Dr. Ryan, you wanna go through a squat kind of with that and show us what we don't wanna do? So a lot of people go through knee flexion like this, where they're just kind of squatting down. Effective exercise, but doesn't really strengthen and target the lower back muscles, which we're trying to make healthier and a little bit stronger. So what this type of movement is it's actually a hip hinge. So we're not just getting knee flexion, which is where the knees bend, we're getting hip flexion where the hips go back. So I'll have Dr. Ryan here stand to the side and face that way so we can see him. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna keep that real close to his body, and he's gonna go into a hip hinge where his butt comes really, really far back, and he's going to use his hips to swing the kettlebell up as high as he can. And he's gonna keep it nice and close to his body as he comes through. What I want you guys to notice is notice the hip movement. See how the hips fly back? And let's get a little bit less bend in the knee there. So right like that, just like that. Butt goes back, full extension. Butt goes back, full extension. That right there is the kettlebell swing, which is gonna be great for your glutes, your hamstrings, and your lower back. All right, what's next? Next exercise we have for you is called the counter stretch. So what Dr. Ryan's gonna do is he's gonna get in essentially like a modified quadruped position. So quadruped, quad meaning 4, hands and knees, except his hands are gonna be up on the bench, or his arms rather. And what he's gonna do is he's gonna take his knees back a little bit further there, and we're gonna work through some shoulder and upper back mobility. So Dr. Ryan's goal is to get his chest as low to the ground as he can without going into what we call a false stretch. So sometimes when people stretch, they can do what's called a false stretch, where they look like they're moving through a particular range of motion, but they're really not. So a false stretch in this instance would be if Dr. Ryan got a lot of low back extension, to where he's kind of rounding his back really, really far. What we want to do is we want to keep the core tight, keep the lower back straight, and then press to the floor. So a lot of that mobilization is coming from the shoulders and not just through the low back, kind of going into extension like that. All right, next exercise we're gonna go over is called the Cossack squat. So what we're gonna do with Dr. Ryan is we're gonna get him in a really lengthened stance here, almost over exaggerating. Now, some of you guys may have some issues with some of your hip morphology or just your mobilization in general, in which case you may want to externally rotate the toes a little bit. That's the way that I prefer to do it based on my hip structure, but everybody's a little bit different. So a couple key components to this Cossack squat are keeping your heels down, your chest up, and trying to increase range of motion over time. So again, you can see that Dr. Ryan, both his heels are on the ground and his chest's up. Now that's going to get a little bit more difficult as he goes into this lateral plane and starts to lunge to the side as far as he can, and then he's going to lunge back up straight, and then he's going to go to the other side. Same thing, heel is down, chest is up. Now as Dr. Ryan is going through this, not just for today's exercise, but if he does this every day, every week, every month, what he's trying to do is over time minimize the space between his lower leg and his upper leg, so his hamstrings and his calf. So what he wants to do is as he goes down, he wants to minimize this gap right here and try to touch his upper leg and his lower leg. And he's just gonna go back and forth. Notice one thing that Dr. Ryan does is he spends a lot of time in the hole of that position. So he goes down, he tries to gain function and gain control of that movement. That's one thing we talk about with our athletes and our clients, is getting control over a particular movement pattern. Okay, last exercise that we're gonna go over is going to be a hurdler's lunge. So this is kind of a lunge variation. It's a little bit difficult. There's a little bit nuance to it. So Dr. Ryan first is going to step into a lunge, which is where he takes one foot out as far as he can, Now, I want you to notice how his back leg is largely straight. That's because not only are we stretching the hamstring, the glute, and some components of the front leg, but we're also working what's called the hip flexor muscle groups in the back leg. Dr. Ryan is going to take himself all the way to the floor. He's going to spend some time down there. He's going to explore different ranges of motion. So he's kind of moving around, seeing what's tight, trying to abduct the hip, which is open the hip up while leaving his foot flat on the floor, keeping that foot loaded. And then what he's going to do is he's going to work into a hamstring stretch. So he's going to go into leg extension, where that front leg's going to extend and his leg's going to be nice and straight. He's going to feel that work all through the back of his leg. After he hangs out there for a little bit, then he's going to go into a traditional lunge with a little bit of a Spartan, which is where we're leaning back and again trying to target the hip flexor of that straight leg. Then he's going to stand up and then he's going to rinse and repeat on the opposite leg.
Oh, this might actually be perfect. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the exercise that everybody is asking me about, and dare I say, I am incorrectly teaching, or they're getting wrong. But this is how you gotta do this. I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see. You've got to unlock the cervical vertebrae here, so you've got to stick your head all the way out, keep your upper body still, stick your head all the way out, chin tilt up, then engage the resistance here. You can see my neck muscles are already working to keep my head still and not fall forward. Then you retract your head back, let this come back, still keeping resistance. Then you push forward, pull back, come back. See, there's still resistance here, and then as I push forward, I'm gonna pull my head back again, retract, retract, and you're gonna keep doing this for 100 reps. Now I can already feel that this is not enough tension. I need to crawl my hands up. There we go, so that I can have good tension here and get full range of motion. So that as far as I push out, is as much resistance as I get. And yes, you're gonna feel the burn, but you're supposed to be working those neck muscles, and it's helping stabilize that spine and that functional spinal unit. So you're gonna repeat this 100 times, twice a day. That's what we need to do for spinal hygiene, because once we get your spine back to the nice, normal, healthy curves, remember 40, 40, 40, just for easy remembering purposes. Once we get you back there, do we quit? No, we don't quit. We continue with our spinal hygiene exercises so that you can stay healthy, all right? Stay tuned for more awesome exercises. We hope you enjoy these top 5 tips for home ergonomic functional mobility. Stay tuned. We're going to bring you a lot more fun stuff. Enjoy.